Greetings people, this is Top Cat Jimmy and thank you for tuning into my channel. This is video number 4 of my series, Mastering Your Own Tracks and or Mixes, to or not to, that is the question. Now this video is actually the continuation of the last video, number 3, where I left off having mastered the mix and was about to go into the post-mastering process, of which that is the title of this video, and that's what we will be doing, is the post-mastering process. Furthermore, that I did promise also that I would be showing the shortcut version of doing the mixing and the mastering, providing that you, if you're like me, playing both roles of the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer and having to be one and the same person but yet play those two different roles, then this is going to be that shortcut version for the person in their recording studio that is performing both of those roles. Alright folks, so with that said, now let's get on with the video. Okay people, well we're going to open up my audio cleaning sound lab here in just a moment, but watch this. See, these are the ones that I just rendered. Okay, so starting from scratch tutorial, okay, you'll see there it is. That's the mixing engineer's rendition. Well, the mixing engineer would also save and have saved already way before now those files, all right, in his computer in an organized manner like I showed you, and at the same time he would save a copy of this in his folders as well. Alright, but for the sake of my reality here, okay, I'm going to not use this because I've already got what I need on my mixed version, and so that went in the garbage is gone. Now right here, this is the mastered 1 wave and this is the mastered 2 wave clipped. So let's first of all open up the wave clipped, and here's my award-winning audio cleaning sound lab, aka also known as Audacity, or some people have called it Audacity. I suppose that's like Audio City. Alright, so the audacity of this thing to claim that it can get rid of clipping, well it can. Watch this. I love Audacity. It totally delivers. So the other thing is I've been using Audacity for a couple years now. Alright, and I love it for cleaning up my audio, getting rid of any clipping. Well, how do I know there's clipping in there? Well, you see that red right there? And look at this. You see where it says view? Show clipping. Now watch, it's checked, right? So see that red? Whoop. The red's gone because it's not showing the clipping. So one more time. There it is. So you say, what in the world? How in the world do I get rid of that? Well, first of all, let's listen to this, and I know it's going to be loud, so let me turn this down, okay? Wow. Do you see way up here? Let's do this again. You see, it's in the red, so it's over 0. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. Here is what I'm going to do. You want to click on this whole track so it highlights the whole thing. Click right over here, and you want to go to Effect and then to Amplify, and now we want to set a new peak amplitude. So I'm just going to do this 1 notch at a time, and I say -1. Alright, I'm going to hit OK and see what happens. Check it out. Ooh, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now we'll click on that so that makes that red line disappear. And now let's check this out. Okay, we wanted a -3, right? So that's actually at about a -1.5, okay? I would possibly bring it down or not. It's not clipping. Now this is the point. I'm not going to touch it. You know why? Because hitting anywhere between, sometimes between -6 and -1.5. All right. Now, on my mastered final product version that I have of this, all right, because this is just the example and illustration, but the actual one that I have that is the final product on the mastered one actually registers at about -3 consistently the whole time. I love it. Now, when it first starts out, it's a little low on the drums, which is fine, and actually registers. It's not fine on this case, okay? So this, once again, is for illustration purposes. This is not to be perfect, or I'm not mastering this song in front of you, okay? This is not a version I'm going to keep. But on my version that is done, the drums, when they come on at first, register around between -6 and -9. I find that to be good, because then it doesn't blast me out of my chair right away, and then it does kick up into -3 past that when all the other instruments come into play. All right, now let's see here. Now, for illustration purposes, one more time, here's what we're going to do. This is good. The mastering engineer is getting his job done. So what does he do? He says, well, let's make sure all this is clicked on, and now we're going to tag it. We are going to not only tag it, we are going to, let's see, what are we going to? Are we going to render it still in waveform, or do we want to do MP3 form, okay, which is right here? Or, yeah, it's going to be the MP3 that we want in the final version, okay, not any of the other of these that I can imagine, all right, unless the mastering engineer, you know, deems necessary or deems fit, all right. But hey, a mastering engineer, somebody sooner or later, a mastering engineer will have to render this into an MP3 file for it to play on your CD player, etc. Okay, online, whatnot. So I'm going to still continue to do it in Wave, and here's why, because I want to show you those other softwares. All right, so I got to change the name on it. Let's say it's no longer clipped. All right, and now we're going to say that we could actually start tagging it a little bit right now just by doing this at 2017. All right, now we can save. Now, here's where the tag starts, okay? So we say the artist name, all right? Track starting from scratch. And then the album title, which I do have an album for this, and I have an album title for it. It's called Conquer the Challenge. This song was created from my creating a model of how to create and fully produce a song in 4 days, anytime you want. So I've got videos up online about that. You might want to check that out. And I conquered that challenge, by the way. So track number 1, of course, the year is 2017. And the genre is going to be rock. All right, and comments, we're going to say mastered for tutorial. Okay, so we have no mistakes here, and now we're good to go. You could add any more tags in there that you want to. It allows for that. All right, so now we're going to want to close this, and voila, there we are. Okay, so now here it is. Okay, there it is. You can see. Now what are we going to do? We don't want the clipped version. Okay, remember the first one we mastered? Let's make sure. It should say, yeah, mastered one wave, right? Check it out. No clipping. All right, let's see what it comes in as. Wow. So you see that came in at -3, just a little, maybe -3, -3.5. So remember what I showed you on that, okay? It came out good on that note on the mastered product, -3 decibels, or close enough to it. That is Excellent. Okay, there you go. And voila. So remember, the mastering engineer, now he will continue through his steps, but for my purposes, I don't need that. So let's go ahead and just empty the trash can right now. All right. I put that in the garbage, then I empty the trash can. All right, so now this one here, let's just double check the, oh no, we don't want that. That's the clipped one. It's in the trash can, empty the waste basket. All right, so, okay, let's just double check the properties on this, folks. Yep, starting from scratch, let's look at the details. Yep, it's tagged. All right, now, you know, we're gonna see that it's a WAV file still. So now here's the rest of the things I wanted to show you. All right. We're going to bring up Free Studio. This is a free software, all right, and I actually downloaded this quite some time ago, but I use it so much I actually ended up buying it, and it's not really expensive at all, okay, and it does a lot of things, man. You got all sorts of different goodies with this. This part is what they call the suite. That's the suite that holds all the stuff that they have, and we want to convert. So now we're going to open the free audio converter, which is free, but I did pay for this. Okay, so it takes off any limitations that it might have on the free version, and the free version is pretty good itself. So let's see now. Once again, yep, this is the song. Let's go ahead and put it in there, and click on that. Yeah, that's what we got to do. Let's check this. Oh, well, what do you know? It's already tagged, mastered for tutorial. Well, what do you know? Here's the thing I wanted to show you, adding a photo. You see, because you can tag it. I could have turned it into an MP3 in Audacity, as you've seen, and tagged it, all right, from there. No problem. But from here, this is why I waited and exported it from Audacity in waveform still, and then brought it into this to convert it into an MP3 so I could add the artwork. All right, so let's do that right now. And folks, here it is. This is the photo actually of me performing that electric guitar part as I'm overdubbing, you know, and so which means I've already recorded some tracks, and actually I've recorded all the tracks by that time, and I saved my guitar and I saved my electric guitar solo for last. So all the tracks were playing on my DAW while I was performing this, and I had video running, so I was actually able to take some snapshots from there as well. All right, so this is the actual performance of it, and all right. Now we want to double check also that this is MP3, folks. We just got to double check and make sure of that. All right, I'm getting carried away. I'm so excited about this, man, and want to be able to show you this. But here's the thing. It is an MP3, all right, and away we go. Now, voila. It is converting. And I have an output folder here. Let's go ahead and check the folder here, and there you go. I just dragged it from my folder to my desktop. We can close that. All right, there it is. You notice, look at that. So it's got my photo on there, but it also has the Audacity icon on there, so it knows to play from Audacity, because that is actually my software of choice to play my music on. All right, so now let's say open with Groove Music. Watch this, people. This is what I'm trying to tell you, man. Show you this. Oh, well, what do you know? See, there's the photo right there. It's on Groove Music. So that means, like any other media out there online, your photo will show up with all the tagged information on it. Isn't that awesome? That's wonderful. Now that's mastering. All right. And now I want to show you another thing here real quick, because now we're going to take a look at the file size already. And I know it's going to be over 8 megabytes because I've done this before. Anyway, Let's check out the properties. 8.26 megabytes. Yes. I'm going to show you another trick here. Watch this, folks. So we're going to bring up the MP3 quality modifier. This is another free software that you can find online. All right. And just look for MP3 quality modifier. Go straight to their own site. Okay. And now, by the way, let's just double check. It's an MP3 file. Okay. That's good, man. Everything's in order. That's what we want. So we want to go ahead and put that there. You follow what I'm saying? Now, I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. I'm getting rid of this. Okay. Because this here is actually wave, and I don't need that wave no more. It is about file management, right? We do not want to get confused, man. Okay, so get rid of all the stuff that you are not going to want to use or keep, so nothing gets confused about. Make sure at the same time you're getting rid of that you're not confused and that you're not throwing anything out that you want to keep. Hey, I'm speaking from experience, okay? So anyway, let me show you something here. All right. Constant. We don't want a laggy, seeming tipsy frame rate, okay? All right, on the bit rate or whatever. So anything on video or audio, keep it constant and keep it strict, all right? And so now I have the liberty to change the, what they say rate, but you know, kilobytes per second. But this is actually buffer size. Remember I showed you buffer size on this? Huh? Yeah, man. Buffer size, samples 256. We're talking about prevention of, cancellation of, elimination of hiss, etc. All right? And white noise, get rid of it, man. Remember, keep it clean. Capture clean and keep it clean from beginning to end. All right, now, also, we want to say 44.1, which obviously if it's not saying 16-bit depth, because it's already in 16-bit depth, that I do not have to worry about that, right? All right, so we want 44.1, okay, kilohertz, 16-bit depth quality. Okay, 16-bit depth because 44.1, 16-bit depth is CD quality, all right? And joint stereo, what's this? So we definitely do not want it mono, okay? And dual channel, you know what? That sounds foreign to me, but here's the deal. Stereo or joint stereo, we know that we want it in stereo, but we might be questioning now which joint stereo is good and or better than stereo. Well, I looked it up, folks, and joint stereo. All right, so here's the deal. If you're gonna, this is a stereo file, right? Now, if you take a look at a stereo imager, and if the track is in mono, it's just going to be going straight down the middle. If you got stereo, you got a left and right channel, and it's going to be some stereo, okay, dimension to it. And the other thing is that when you got joint stereo, what happens is, all right, that though the stereo on the left and right is already joined and combined on stereo, if there's any kind of bald spots in there, okay, excuse the expression, all right, I have a little bit, you know, of receding there myself. But here's the thing, you know, that if there's any type of lack in that stereo image, okay, then that's supposed to make it fuller, all right, in those areas, because it actually makes sure that those stereo files left and right are joining, okay? That's joint stereo. All right, so let's go ahead and now make sure first, one more time, that everything's good, and we're going to want to process it. Okay, I've got my destination set up already. Now watch what happens. All right, it's going to show you this file size of what it was, and now the file size of what it is after this. All right, here it is, see? So the original file size, 8.26. Let's just take a look at that again. Okay, so here we are, 8.26. That is correct. And now the new file size is 6.63. And now you don't have to pay Reverb Nation to become a premium member to, you know, pay them and then upload what? One song that's a little over 8 megabytes? Now you can upload this on your Reverb Nation page for free still, all right, as you if you're like me, have been doing. All right, so now, okay, because I found out about this, man, the ability to, all right, shrink the file size to a degree, but it has no loss of quality, no loss of audio quality resolution, all right? In fact, let me bring that over here, and it's right there, okay? Now, see, let's open that right now, and there it is. Oh, don't you just love it when it does that, okay? And there it is, okay? So now I can actually delete that. Here we are. One more time. This is 6.63 megabytes MP3 file. It is tagged. It's got my photo on it. All right, so this is the one we don't want. This is the one that's got 8.26. Okay, get rid of it so there's no confusion. This is, once again, this is basic file and session management. We can close this. We can close that. And now one more time, look at the properties, because the mastering engineer is going to check and double check and recheck this stuff. MP3 file, 6.63 megabytes, okay? And it's totally mastered now, totally mastered. We're going to one more time open this up with groove music, all right? And check it out. All right, so there you go. And mind you, the quality of the sound might not sound that great, only because I'm not actually playing for you the MP3 version, okay, online. That sound is coming from there, out of my monitors, into my blue microphone, okay, into my blue snowball microphone, and that's what you're hearing. So please do not judge a song by that. All right, however, okay, there you go. If you want to hear my mastered song, go to my Reverb Nation page, Top Cat Jimmy, and look for Starting From Scratch, okay? And now, people, we can upload this to Reverb Nation or wherever you're going to upload it to. It's an MP3. It's ready to upload, okay? And I don't think that I should have to bring you through those steps. I do have on my other videos, like my 4 video series about this song, about how to create and fully produce a song in 4 days, and I did so, and the song I actually created was this song, Starting From Scratch. I showed you on that 4th video, okay, of me uploading it to my Reverb Nation page. So what else can I say? Oh yes, there you go, Dropbox. I wanted to mention that right there. So if you have files, and say if you're in Pro Tools, yes, you can save your sessions to the cloud, and other Pro Tool users, if you give them permission, can access those from the cloud in Pro Tools. But let's say you're, exported your tracks from Reaper DAW like I did, and then you are going to send them to somebody that's going to mix and or master those tracks in, say, Persona Studio One or whatnot, okay? And let's say a different DAW, but you've already got your tracks into, say, 44.1, 16-bit depth mono tracks that where any other DAW can read them. So then what you do is, for one place that is, and a lot of people use this, okay, is the Dropbox account. So get a Dropbox account for that reason, and then with permissions, all right, and communicating with each other to set those permissions, you can send and receive and transfer and access files, okay, from and with each other. All right, so I wanted to mention that. Okay, folks, well, here's the shortcut that I promised to show you, that if you are both the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer sitting in the same chair at the same workstation desk, this is the shortcut. And because I know you're astute. You most likely already know this, and you most likely can see where this is already going. But here's the shortcut. All right? It's quite simple. You basically just keep every one of your mixed tracks up, right? And then you want to go ahead and, on the master track, add your effects. And therefore, because I've already prepared for this video, I'll show you the shortcut to the shortcut. All right, and here we go. Voila. And I've already got the effects in here. And what we have here now on the master track are the effects of EQ, the compressor or compression, reverb, the stereo imager, so to speak, or in this case, Reaper has stereo image filter and not necessarily the stereo imager. Nevertheless, all right, we got stereo image, and then we have the master limiter. All right, now I would like to say that the master limiter is going to give you that even additional extra oomph, and plus it's going to keep it from clipping altogether. Now, when using the master limiter in addition to the compressor, will definitely assure that. Like I said, with that master limiter, it will give it even that much more of that extra oomph, and it will definitely keep it from clipping at the same time. And that's what we want. We want that volume, but we do not want it distorted. Okay, so the shortcut is as simple as, once again, having and keeping your mixed tracks up and just simply adding the effects on the master track with the mixed tracks up and all this together. And now let's take a listen to it with and without the effects on the master track. We'll play it without them, bypassing it, and then we will listen to it with the effects on the master track. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and play this now on bypass. And mind you, this is coming from my monitors. Okay, so it's not going to be necessarily because it's coming from my monitors, and what you're really hearing through this is the sound coming through my Blue Snowball desktop condenser microphone. All right, but hopefully still you should be able to hear the difference in these things. Okay, so here we go. Okay, now I want to go ahead and show you the master effects rack, so to speak. And here we are, but I want to take the limiter off and let you hear this with the rest of the effects on there, and then once I add the master limiter, watch what happens, okay? So this is without the master limiter. Okay, I'm pretty certain you can hear the difference. As I said, that if our tracks are mixed, but our mix is not mastered, then it's not finished. So as you notice, I have the EQ on, the compressor on, the reverb, the stereo imager, that every one of these effects adds that and those qualities to a mixed version song. So with just that, one more time, with just that, it's going to go from mixed to the master sound, right? Even without the limiter. And that difference alone you will hear, but when you add the master limiter on the master effects rack, it gives it that much more beauty, I think, and oomph, okay? So let's go ahead and do this again. Now watch this. I'm going to take the master limiter off, but I'm also going to bypass that master effects rack altogether. Now, one more time, let's hear this without the effects on there, and then when I turn the effects back on, that's going to be the mastered part, so to speak, without the limiter on it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is with the effects on bypass. Here we go. Okay, now that is without the master limiter on there, but the rest of the effects are on, okay? Okay, so that is with the effects off, so that's just the mix. And then with the master effects rack on, okay? So we've just heard the difference between the mixed version and therefore the mastered version, although the mastered version is without the master limiter. So here we go. Let's go ahead and hit the effects back on. This is the mastered version without the limiter. Now notice one thing, that without the master limiter it's clipping, but with the master limiter it gives it more volume, and still, how does it do that and not add more clipping? The master limiter keeps it from clipping, okay? With the other effects in there, and it has some clipping, and now will go in and take away the clipping while even giving it more volume. So this is a very important effect to put in with our EQ, our compressor, our reverb, and our stereo imager, okay? So one more time, let's watch this right here in the master track, okay? Look at that and look for some clipping without the master limiter. Here we go. We're going to start right here. As you can see, it went into the red. That's +0, okay, 0.6. So let's go ahead now and click on this again and watch what happens when I add the master limiter, and let's see what it looks like. You see, it brought more volume, but at the same time, it's -0.1. It brought it down 7/10 of a decibel because it was +0.6. It brought it down those 0.6 decibels ±1 point, okay? -0.7 decibels, which is 7/10 of a decibel, all right? And it brought it down below 0 and eliminated the clipping. All right, so now that we've got as the mastering engineer, all right, because this is what we're dealing with, is the master track. These mixed tracks could be the same difference as if it was stereo wave file that the mixing engineer rendered and sent to the mastering engineer, all right? And here we are as the mastering engineer now, just only dealing with the mastering and the master effects rack. Now this is the shortcut. We don't have to take these and send them to ourselves and, you know, open it up in stereo wave file. We can just, without rendering it into a stereo wave file, yes, it is safe to do this, to go ahead and take every bit of this and these tracks with them up, and then go ahead and deal with and put our effects in the master rack. And now that we just mastered the song, and now that we just added, as the mastering engineer, those effects that we needed in the master track, and we can hear the difference one more time. Let's play this. All right, the mixed tracks. Here we go. And now the mastered mix. Okay. As the mastering engineer, are we happy? Let's say, I believe we are. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and not send it to ourselves, but we're going to render this down into a stereo MP3 file. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We want to render all of this. Okay, we want the master mix. Okay, and just to make sure, we got to have this in stereo. We'll get to this. We will get to this in a moment, but let's just double check things here. And if you got any questions, explore. So if I were to say master mix and stems, it says 2 files. That's not good, right? So we want to say master mix, and the other thing is I want to go ahead and bring that back to the beginning. Everything is in order. Let's say master mix, therefore, okay. And stereo, remember stereo, we're going to have to rename it. And so let's go ahead and do that, starting from scratch. And we're going to make sure that we distinguish this. So let's say mastered today, and let's look for our destination. I want to put it on a desktop so that there's no confusion, because remember what I was telling you about file and session management. Okay, so let's go into the desktop. Very good. And sample rate 44.1 kilohertz, 16-bit depth, because we're going to make the CD quality, and looks like everything else is in order except for, let's put it into the MP3 version. We want, I believe, constant bit rate. I just want to keep it at what it is here. Let's see here. I want to just double check everything. And this would be the buffer size. I usually keep it at 256 kilobytes per second, simply because from what I understand, the higher buffer size, the more potential it has for lag or latency. I find that at 256, as I mentioned on one of my previous videos in this series, and bringing up my mixing board for my TASCAM 4x4 interface, I've got the software that I've got my software, I've got my mixer for my interface here that's sitting on my desk, but the software that comes up, I find that at the buffer size of 256, that is suitable. All right, so I want to keep it the same as that, therefore 44.1 kilohertz, and I want constant bit rate. I got 16 bit depth. This is 44.1, and 16 bit depth is CD quality. I usually use 256 kilobytes per second on the buffer size. And as I mentioned in one of my other videos in this series, that as I understand it, that the higher the buffer size, the more potential it has for latency and lag. I like to keep it on constant. That tells me it's going to be exactly that. Besides, it's going to be constant, and to me that implies no lag. Yet the buffer size is also going to have something to do with preventing lag and also preventing, say, white noise and hiss. So if you have white noise and hiss, like I mentioned in my other video, my studies show that raising the buffer size helps eliminate the hiss, yet at the same time, we got to be cautious because the higher that we set our buffer size, as I mentioned, the more potential that it has for lag. So we had to find our peaceful medium in that. See what I'm saying? All right, so let's just double check this. Everything seems to be in order. Alrighty, let's do this. Render one file. Make sure it's in stereo. Double check that, I would suggest. Here we go. It is rendering. It says it's rendering in minus 0.2. No clipping. Therefore, no distortion. Okay? We'll let that render. Then we will test it out, as I mentioned, in my software of choice for my testing things and my audio cleaning sound lab. The software known as Audacity, that has the audacity to claim it can do a great job, and it can. All right? It is great for cleaning up audio, for removing clipping, noise reduction, etc. And it has the options and features of, if you have not checked out Audacity for noise reduction, you might want to check that out. If there is anything, say, in the beginning when you're first starting this, like you give it a 4 count and then you're coming in and it plays, like in that recording at the very beginning when there's no music playing yet, if you hear a little bit of something, you can actually silence that. You can keep that 4 count in there, but you can silence that area. Audacity has a number of great options, but I think mainly that I really like it because I can set a new peak amplitude for it and thus reduce any unnecessary volume that's over 0, bring it down to 0, and then eliminate the clipping from it. Okay, folks, we want to check this out, but before I do, I'm going to want to close this, and I'm going to go ahead and actually close my DAW as well. And we can go ahead and save that, I do believe. And here we go. It is opening. There is the file. And as I mentioned in this series, that the mastering engineer, because now we're playing that role, all right, it would be well advised to take the rendered stereo MP3 and look and test it for clipping nonetheless, even though we think it's right, as it looks on the DAW, you know, that it looks like when it's rendering. Everything indicated no clipping, right? Yet this is one of the main reasons why I like and that I use Audacity, is to be able to look at it and see, therefore testing it for clipping just by viewing it. All right, because as I mentioned before, you go to view in Audacity and you click on show clipping, and that red in there is the clipping. I'll uncheck it. See? Now, show clipping. There it is. So now, let's go ahead and listen to this real quick. All right, now, what I see immediately is that it stops up here at 0. If this was going to clip in Audacity, it would go past 0 and you would actually see a red line up there. Let's go right here where there is a red line here on this. So even where there's red lines and it looks like a little clipping, still when it plays, it does not go into the clipping zone, so to speak, okay? Now, with that said, the question is, do we want to nevertheless still make a new peak amplitude? If you want to say, I want this clean, I don't want any red lines in there, I don't want no clipping at all whatsoever, okay? Even though it does not show any clipping in the played version, all right, nonetheless, let's say we want to eliminate that. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is go ahead and click on this right here, and that whole stereo track highlights, okay, in gray. There you go. So now we want to hit Effect. Now, mind you, once we do all this, we have to actually re-render this besides in MP3 form again. However, this is where we can, like I mentioned in my other video, where we can tag this as well. Because now, as this part of the video indicates, we're both the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer. We just got through doing the mastering. We're still in the post-mastering process, and that's what this is. This right here is the post-mastering process, okay? We just, as the mastering engineer, mastered that mix. That part of the mastering engineer's job is done. As a matter of fact, the mastering engineer's job, depending on in what studio they're in, may be completely done. Therefore, now, in some studios, they may do the following. The mastering engineer takes his work that is done, the stereo MP3 file, and then passes that off, perhaps passes that off to the post-production people. And therefore, they then do the post-mastering process and work. Or in some cases, the mastering engineer might or might not do the post-mastering process. So now you just went from the mastering engineer that's going to do the post-mastering process as the mastering engineer, which is fine. Now you can do that job and add to your repertoire as the mastering engineer, still doing his or her job. Or now you're playing the role of someone else in the department of post-mastering, okay? So once again, this is part of another role, okay? Nonetheless, even if the mastering engineer is still doing it, now this is his twofold role that he and or she, as the mastering engineer, performs, all right, and plays. So here we go. What we want to do is go ahead and click on this right here to where this whole stereo track highlights in gray, all right, and we want to go to effects, and I've already shown you this in the other video, but we're going to do this anyway because this is the full version basically, okay? So let's try minus, as a matter of fact, let's try minus 0. I'm going to say 1 and just see what happens. It's going to re-render it. There. See, it's simple as a minor adjustment. Minus 0.1 of a decibel took care of that. See, that's the way I am. That's actually how I not only did it, but would do it. I would clean it up. That way I can absolutely say there is no clipping in that, period. All right. Also, now, what I do notice right in here, let's go ahead and open this up a little bit. Oops, wrong way. Let's go ahead and go down here. Cooperate. Now, I want you to hear this. Highlight that area, just like that, from one point to the other, okay? We can do that. Now, listen to this. I want to see if there's any noise in there. As a matter of fact, let's push this to, oopsie, you can push this right here to that point where it begins. I mean, right. As a matter of fact, I want to open this up just a little bit more so I don't go into where it begins in the music. Just right there. All right, let's listen to that. It'll play only that part. I hear something, not just a click there that you heard, which is really nothing. That's just where the song comes in. But I hear a little bit of white noise. And now, so what we want to do is we want to go to generate. We want to go to silence. All right. And this is going to tell you the time frame of that gray area. Okay. Nevertheless, this thing is accurate. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And voila. Now let's give it a listen to. And it will play only in that area. All right, as a matter of fact, I want to bring this back right there because I don't want to hear that click, because what you're going to hear in that click is actually just the music beginning like I mentioned. Perfect silence. Golden, man. So let's go ahead and see. There's no clicking. As I mentioned, that was only the song coming on. Perfect. So now, let's go ahead and listen this again. What we have therefore done, and there's something else we are going to want to double check. All right. Let's go ahead and make sure this is actually less than, since the song ends right here. That's where it ended. All right, so we're fine there. I'm going to just take that point right there, and I want to play that just to double check. All right, see? It'll play only that area. Just make sure we're not touching any sound in here. And what I want to do is snip that right there. Voila. Now, what have I done? I've got already a just less than a 3-minute and 30-second song. But I want to make sure that for commercial purposes, okay, that if the music on this song actually ends at 3:28, but then you see that track went past 3:30, like to 3:31, then I've got 3 seconds of unnecessary length that for commercial purposes, if someone in the business sees that, then they're actually going to say that's 1 second too long if they're looking for a 3-minute and 30-second song. And let's say they ain't going to test it. And let's say they don't want to test it, and let's just test it and see if it's not 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Because once you render this and it comes up, if you got 3 minutes and 31 seconds, that's exactly what it's going to say, okay, in your properties or in the properties of that song, regardless of what you do, regardless of you tagging it or not. Those properties by default will be added, being one, the length of that song. So in order to make sure that those properties are going to reflect the specific details that are going to be weighing in your favor, okay, then let's go ahead, and we just got rid of about 3 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just double check that. Let's stop it right, we'll pause it right there. So what do we got? It says 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Okay, 3 minutes, 28 and a half seconds. It's not affecting our sound on our music or our song. And it's brought it less than 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And so when someone in the business looks at it and says, the properties say 3 minutes and 28 and a half seconds, then they say, good, it's under 3.5 minutes. Let me give this a listen to. All right. So for them to even consider it, it should, in my opinion, be 3.5 minutes or less. 3.5 minutes or less for commercial purposes. You're trying to sell your music, right? Or you're wanting your music to have the potential to sell, correct? Well, these are things that we must consider, okay, in that case. Now, it's all about being prepared. Now, let's see what else. Now, in our post-mastering process, taking care of everything we needed to take care of. Now, you might ask, well, why didn't I just take it off the front and snip it? Because, well, the reason I definitely did not do that, because I originally started off with the song with the intention of having a more or less a 5 count. So from the time you started, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So in other words, by the 5th count, the drums start playing and people know when to chime in. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That on that 1 count of that second bar, that is when the song begins. And I want from the time, let's say, you click start, so that's going to be the 1 count of that first 4 count bar, all right? It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. See what I'm saying? So there you go. Definitely do not want to take that off the beginning. That is part of the song. All right, so now that we have that, now we are going to have to re-render this. All right, it's got to be saved. And the only way that this can be saved is, first of all, once again, click on this, highlight it, then say export selected audio. Now, this is where, once again, in the post-mastering process, as a matter of fact, I'm going to change this, and it's going to say Audacity mastered, okay? I could say Audacity Postmaster, all right? So let's go and do that then. That'll be fine too, all right? Postmaster. And therefore, we are not making any confusion. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and do it in MP3, but remember on my previous video that it shows of how to take, now if I were to do this in Wave, to take it into my other software to add a photo to it, to where in that software you can convert it to an MP3, but you can also add your profile photo onto that song and check it for any other tagging information. But you can add all your tagging information to begin with here in Audacity, which is what we're going to do. But the reason that I would leave this in WAV or render this in WAV, all right, would be to bring it into that other MP3 converter, all right. It converts audio files into many different various file types like this does, alrighty. And I can add my profile photo to it as well as the other tags. All right, now I'm just going to say that since this is already an MP3 version, I'm going to just keep it in MP3. I can still bring it into that converter to add my profile photo to it. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and render this into a WAV file simply because Audacity seems to be giving me an objection to rendering this into an MP3 file. It never gives me an objection to rendering it into WAV, which is what I usually do anyway, but I've run into this problem before. I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, everything's set. Let's go ahead and see what it does. And this is what it's saying. Audacity is basically lacking a file. All right, so that's fine. To get a free copy of that, I can click here and download it. I've never bothered to do that though, because I just usually do not render anything in MP3 with using my Audacity. Okay, I render anything that's a WAV file, let's say, into an MP3 version using my other software, and I always render anything from Audacity into WAV form to begin with. All right, so that's why I'm not rendering it into an MP3 right now. All right, and I would do so to save time on this video, but as you can see, it's giving me an objection, and I think that I pretty much just explained as to why I now have to render it into a WAV file. And voila, looks like everything's fine. We want to save it to the desktop. Yes, we're saving it. Okay, so this is where the tagging information comes up. I already had this saved and ready, okay, for this. Yes, there it is. And now we hit OK, and it's going to render. And let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, folks, well, here they are. This is the mastered MP3 stereo file right here. Okay? And this is the post-mastered stereo WAV file that we just took this and rendered it into this. Okay? We already know that this is the cleaned up and detailed rendition, whereas there's no clipping at all whatsoever. Okay? The first 4 count at the beginning of the song is clean. That the song is shortened to 3 minutes and 28.5 seconds without affecting the music. Now, it plays at 0. Now, this still, therefore, needs to be what? This needs to be re-rendered from WAV into an MP3. The profile photo should be added onto it. I showed you all those things in the other video, but because I'm one for following through, I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick, all right, and once again finish this job. All right, so here we go. We're going to bring this up. It's the free studio, and then we will render it into an MP3 and take a look at the tags. It's reading the tags I have in there. Let's add the artwork. Okay, now here is the photo. Double check this, make sure it says MP3. Now hit convert. It is converting. we can change the name right up in here on the converted one. All right. And I want to show you. There it is. Alrighty. All right. So next of all, let's go ahead and open this up and see what it does. But before we even do that, let's go ahead and rename this just to make sure we say starting from scratch, because we know this is the one we want. I like to do this at copyright and then the year, and let's see what it looks like in Audacity. And here we are. Voila, that's the song. Let's do this. Let's check it out. That's the rendition we want. All right, let's now do this. All right, we're back to the desktop. Now, let's check out the properties and look at the file size. It is 8.06. Everything's fine. It's an MP3 version. We're good. Now, like I showed you in my other video, we can bring over the MP3 quality modifier, and now we can change the file size. We can shrink that file size, that is. And I keep mine on constant, and once I change it to constant, I'm going to be able to have more options here to change it to the buffer size, all right, of my choice. So I will change it to constant, and now, yes, 256 is exactly what I want. Joint stereo, remember, not mono, not dual channel, stereo or joint stereo, and of course 44.1 kilohertz. All right, what do we want to do next? We're going to hit process. It's going to process. It's going to create an output folder for me. All right, let's take a look. It was 8.6. Now it's 6.47. We have no loss of audio quality, neither. So let's just go ahead and check this out. That'll close. Now here it is. And now, see, I can get rid of this folder because I only want it on my desktop. There it is. So this is the one. So notice that the properties say 6.47. That's the version we want to keep. This is right here, 8.06. Okay, so now once again, I do not want this particular file. It's about keeping my files clean and in order, and only keeping the things that I want and the things that I need and the things that I am going to use. Okay, so now let's go ahead and rename this again, because it's got the 2 on there, and I don't want that number 2 on there at all whatsoever. And now let's bring it up in Audacity again and show you, because you've seen the last rendition. Here we go. Check it out. Well, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so it looks like we are good to go. And now just let me close Audacity here. And here we are. Okay, it looks like we do have our final version, our mixed, our mastered, our post-mastered, our completely post-mastered, rendered MP3 stereo file, now ready to publish, to burn out on the CD, to put up online, to wherever your social media sites are at. Okay, people, so let's continue to create our music, record, mix, master, post-master, fully produce, publish, and distribute our music to the world. Now, with that said, I'd just like to say there is the fulfillment and the installment on the shortcut version of the mixing and the mastering, providing that you perform the roles of both of those people. Now that's the direct route right there. Simple as going ahead and leaving your mixed tracks up there on your DAW, and then adding your master effects rack on your master track, and simply rendering it as I just showed you. And of course, the previous video, that if the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer are two different people, then that's how they would go about it in their performance of their job tasks. And then of course the post-production department. So here we've played the role of the mixing engineer, the mastering engineer, the post-production department personnel, and so on. Okay, now with that said, I'm going to do this segue into the remaining part of this video so that I may end it accordingly. Thanks for viewing this, and here we go. Now, what else have I got to share? I've got quite a bit to share. So, I'm going to have to make another video, all right? And so, what I want to do is I've shared with you the most part of this whole video. But I'm going to make another video, all right? And share with you the rest. This is basically everything, except for I have not showed you, okay, I want to show you the difference in the plugins from Reaper to Magic's Music Maker 2016, and also Mixcraft 7. All right, I'm not going to show you the plugins in Audacity, though they do have them. Okay, it's a free software. You can check it out online. So if you want to get it, download it. I would highly suggest it. You see reasons why, okay, in this video. And then you can check out their stock plugins for yourself, okay? And now I want to show you the difference in the plugins and these DAWs, like I mentioned. And yes, I do have Pro Tools. I'm not going to bother with that, though, okay, in this video. And these three DAWs right here, that's what I want to share with you about. And you'll hear okay, you'll hear good, and you'll hear better. And so then I also want to emphasize in that video about stressing the burden of responsibility is on the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer, as far as their, I'll put it this way, their efforts, okay? Their efforts. Some people might call them, well, their skills, or their, you know, their ears, or this or that and the other, but I'm going to say your efforts, all right? And then it's a matter of having the, it's a matter of making first the effort, okay? And in the moment, on the job, as an apprentice, okay? On the job training, getting that experience, right? You follow what I'm saying? Forging that experience out on your own. And that is what develops skill. That experience, when you're using your effort and you're bringing your best to bear, should and will bear fruit, okay? It will bear skill. You follow what I'm saying? And so the burden of responsibility is on the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer and the workman and the work person, okay? Or the work woman, all right? But the work person, all right? And then these tools, all right? So in my opinion, it's first the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer, okay? And then secondly, it's the tools. Because when I was in the military, okay, there was a saying, and it's still there, I'm sure. And it goes like this, that we have learned to do so much with so little for so long that we have learned that we could probably do just about anything without nothing. So take with what you do have, okay, and use that to the best of your ability. I'm going to suggest also, don't look at what you don't have. Don't say, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. Well, what do you have? Look in your hand and see what you do have. Okay, look around you. What do you have? Look around you. Is there something you can use? You know? And improvise, man. You know? Become a master of improvising. You know? And use your skill. Use your skill set for that. And yes, in other words, take these stock plugins, which are either okay or good or better, and then do your bestest with that, with what you do have. And once you exercise that to the utmost of your ability, I think then, and that's when, that a person is eligible, once they prove themselves to be faithful, okay, and responsible in those things and use them to the maximum. Those are the people that deserve promotion. So then I would consider myself worthy, okay, of upgrading and needing to use custom plugins. Because after a while, stock plugins, even after, because when you exercise it to your utmost, eventually they're going to reach their limit, okay? Which means I've reached mine with those, which means I want to continue to expand and grow as I have been. And so now it's time for me, therefore, okay, inevitably, to get custom plugins. Now, 2 plugins, like I mentioned, I will suggest. Ozone Isotope and Waves, all right? So, anyway, I want to show you the difference between the plugins on these 3 DAWs, okay? Okay, good, better. And then, also, I want to show you, okay, one more thing about the TASCAM DP24. And in the TASCAM DP24, about, I have those same tracks that you just seen in my TASCAM DP24 multi-track recorder, mixer, okay, and masters. And so anyway, I want to show you how the mix down is done in that. I want to show you, first of all, real quick, about the EQs on each and every one of them, you know, what it looks like, that each track has its own EQ, show you real quick about that. I want to show you how in the mix down, how simple and easy it is to mix this as a result. Of course, you got your pans here and everything in your, okay, EQ, okay, rack for each track, follow what I'm saying? And then you've got dynamics, you've got effects, you've got compression, you've got whatnot, and then also that once it's mixed down, how simple it is to do that, and now putting it through the mastering phase, and then once in there to show you that there's a global EQ, a global compression, okay, etc. And then we'll choose those, and then to master it, okay, down, so to speak, master it, okay, then it masters, and then also that this burns off and burns out onto a CD. It has a CD burner in it. All right, that's the other reason why I bought it. Number one, because it's a recorder with all these tracks. And number two, because it burns out on CD, and that is why I bought it. And that CD burner with the multi-tracks is what sold me on purchasing a TASCAM DP24. So anyway, it burns out on CD. So what do you got now? Right? I've got a master CD, and now I can put on CD duplicating towers, and yes, they can be obtained, and you know, the bigger ones you get, the more they cost, but they can be obtained. And say if you're going to be mass producing your own CDs and distributing like that, you can do that. All right, and you'll have your master CD to do it. Okay, folks, well, this is Top Cat Jimmy, and so I will have to add that on this next video. All right. And so anyway, this is Top Cat Jimmy. Thank you for tuning in to my channel. That next video will be the final video of this series. So I was attempting to do a 4-video series. Did my best to do it as 4 videos. Okay, but it turns out to be, it's going to be more. Okay. Well, folks, what can I say? That's just the way it is. All right. So this is Top Cat Jimmy. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Look for the final video in this series. I appreciate you viewing, And I say God bless you, sayonara, adios, and we'll see you again the next time.